The situation we are seeing today is truly something historic. You look at what's happening with interest rates and inflation all coming together. I'm going to talk about the energy crisis in particular in Europe that is literally heading towards hyperinflation. And then I want to look at what's happening in the United States related to the housing market. I want to talk, of course, about mortgage and interest rates in general. I've got a lot to cover. So let's begin. Here we have right now really some important data that I wanted to give to you. We are in a housing recession. The housing market has cooled so much as the Fed withdraws its support for the economy that some analysts say it may be in a slump. And I would say it goes a lot deeper than that. Mortgage rates nearly doubled in the first half of the year. The Fitch Ratings Service has raised the specter of a severe downturn that could send home prices tumbling. Housing starts plunged in July. Builder confidence has declined the most since the 2008 meltdown, and new home sales last month were down 30% from the previous year. Now you got to think to yourself for a second here, if we are at this current state, where does that leave us? Where does that leave you? And I think it's really important to address all of that because when you see this coming at a time in which inflation is so high and yet they are heading right into a brick wall. Most people do not have this and can't comprehend it because they have their 9-to-5 job. Maybe they're making ends meet right now. But what happens when you encounter higher interest rates in this time in this state? Well, of course, it's going to be detrimental. We must understand that. Look at the details in the data. It doesn't have to be like 2008. It doesn't have to be the exact same pattern, but certainly we have echoes from what we had seen previously. Okay, so let's go on further with this. You could see, quote, I think we're in a housing recession right now. After a year and a half of the strength that we had seen in housing, this isn't just a retrenchment to a more normalized trend. This is definitely a weakening. And that just gives you a little bit of insight here. We see what's happened. And I think for most people, they cannot comprehend it. They cannot think to themselves what this could mean. Let's move through this really quickly. That's a big deal because spending on housing accounts for as much as 18% of GDP, and the sector typically leads recoveries. So pay attention to that, okay? Nobody knows how much real estate prices, not just in the US, but globally, were increased by QE, quantitative easing. But I think there's a pretty strong consensus that QE did boost asset prices and real estate prices in particular. And now we are going into the opposite of that, and nobody has a particularly good model of what that looks like. And that is the worry here, because for the most part, you have individuals just saying, everything's gonna be okay, it's all good. But really, nobody knows. Okay, and you look at the data itself, and these are the 3 points that I want to cover. If you look at it specifically, you're going to see a few things. First thing is that interest rates have moved up considerably, leaving mortgage rates at the highest in a decade. Okay, you follow that along with $3 trillion in mortgage-backed securities that were bought over the few years. My goodness. And then, of course, we have inventories that are building but are still below pre-2020 levels. All of these 3 things, put that together, and you have what I believe is considered to be a recipe for disaster. Don't take this lightly, okay? We need to look at that. The data is all there for us to find. So I want to cover the next aspect. And I think whether you are in Germany, whether you are in a place that is, let's just say, somewhere else around the world, the United States or what have you, and you have an energy rich situation, well, to me, it just shows us that we could encounter problems wherever we are. Look, German companies halt production to cope with rising energy prices. German manufacturers are halting production in response to the surge in energy prices caused by Russia's squeeze on gas supplies, a trend that the government described as alarming. Now think about that for a second here. You have an actual halting of production. What do you think that does to the economy? As they say right here, quote, it's not good news. Quote, because it can mean that the industries in question aren't just being restructured, but are experiencing a rupture, a structural rupture, one that is happening under enormous pressure. The situation for many companies is or soon will be toxic, not only because of the shortage of gas, but mainly because of the ludicrous price increases. And that's what we are dealing with right now. We are talking about hyperinflation of the prices that people have to pay. That to me is extreme on any level. Okay, we are looking at this very concerning situation, and I'm going to be covering it, okay? Because if the prices get too high, economy slows down and we encounter some serious problems, okay? Let's look right here. As you go through what's happening, additionally, you have Russia's Gazprom announcing another halt to Germany's gas flow. Gazprom, the Kremlin-controlled energy giant, says that it will temporarily shut down down the gas in its pipeline to Germany at the end of the month for repairs, a move likely to trigger more uncertainty in Europe as countries struggle to compensate for cuts in Russian fossil fuels. Apparently, they cut it 50% in Europe, but I'm not sure how sustainable that really is at this time. Look, this is one example of what's been happening recently. I think it's wild, but the oil futures market is completely broken, moving down $10 a day for no apparent reason. And there are some very big problems that are being exposed right now with these markets. And I think people should understand that and just try to make sense of it for themselves. You're never going to know each and every detail, but I do think it's important to follow this. What about this? I don't know how to pronounce it precisely, but Athlone Cafe owner shocked after getting a 9,000 euro electricity bill. Quote, things are only going to get worse. The cost of electricity. So this is the bill. You could see it in front of this lady's face right here. The cost of electricity to the Poppy Fields Cafe for 73 days from early June until the end of August came in at 9,000 as an increase of 250% in just 12 months. Just incredible as far as I'm concerned. To see the damage that's being inflicted right here on normal people. These are just regular small businesses and they're being decimated to some degree. You watch it closely, you see what's happening. The prices have increased. This is, as far as I'm concerned, a hyperinflation. And as a result, people are going to be hurt by it. We will cover some of the solutions to that and what you can do in just a moment here. But I think it's important to understand the data, to understand the detail, because as far as I'm concerned, this is going to affect everybody. It's not just Europe. Europe's just feeling real bad right now due to many factors, of course. So let's look at the next aspect right here. As you see, electricity prices have risen dramatically, putting many people and businesses into a precarious position. Cutbacks are made as a result. That's you, the individual, you, the business. You cut back. Consumers always push themselves to the edge, always maximizing debt. If expenditures increase on necessary goods and services like food, energy, and shelter, less will be spent on other areas of the economy. Higher interest rates spur savings and therefore less spending. If all growth is based on debt today, less growth equals less debt equals less growth. So that's the way it works, right? When you see what people are doing and what they have been doing all along, you have to figure for yourself what's going to happen. If they're not spending on, the iPhones and going out to the expensive restaurants and all these different things, and they're simply buying their food and energy and so on, well, then you've got an issue, don't you? Well, that's what's happening right now. And it is a concern. But we will see this in time. It's starting to slow down in the economy. You can see that in various elements of the economy. And of course, this is just going to continue for the foreseeable future. So I wanted to talk here about what you, the individual, can do. Look, what you can do. Reduce energy consumption as best you can. Doesn't mean necessarily that you've got to cut back on everything you have. It's just if you're wasting it, now is not the time to do so. You need to be conserving. Next thing is to look for tax rebates in your city. Talk to your accountant to see if necessary. That means you, the individual, you can look around, you can see what's available to you. Many people don't know about the tax rebates that are there, and you could be taking advantage, okay? So just look at that. Spend the day just trying to figure it all out. Call your accountant too. Sometimes the accountants don't know. Okay, so you got to look at that yourself. I've encountered that myself, where there was something very important that it wasn't the fault of the accountant. It was just something that is very obscure. So, these people, they don't necessarily know each and every situation. So you've got to do your own due diligence. fix issues with your home, whether that's weatherproofing your doors and windows or using an energy efficient thermostat. There's more to that, of course, but just a couple points. And last, take steps today to increase your self-sufficiency in energy. So many people have gone into this passive home building trend. Okay, so basically the way that the home is built is naturally more energy efficient. Okay, so they're able to build it on a certain angle. They do certain things to save up to literally 90% of their energy. It's called passive homes. So you could see that for yourself. Other things that you could do, obviously solar panels, geothermal energy, whatever makes sense to you in your area, you've got to take action today. I think that's really key. That's really important because for a lot of people, they are just sitting ducks. And I understand for people in dire straits, there's things that we need to do, and even if it's just a little bit every day, it certainly will help. So I'm going to finish off the video here. I'm working through the kinks, working through the bugs, but I hope you do appreciate it as I move through into the next phase of the channel. If you found this video informative, then you've got to subscribe, okay? Hit that button down below, and I'll see you tomorrow.